live from Costa Rica. Thank you very much for joining us this evening for what is single-handedly my most important YouTube video of the year. And I'm saying that 1 week after my dear wife was on my YouTube channel. So this is absolutely about as important as it gets. Tonight, I'm joined by Marcia and Alberto. They're directors of a nonprofit organization with which I have intimately been involved for years. They're accomplishing amazing things in Guanacaste, Costa Rica, to protect a fragile ecosystem, to make sure people have water for the future, to create green employment, and to do a million amazing things that really we're going to talk about today. It's called the Guanacaste Water Center. If you're joining me from abroad or from Costa Rica, let's be clear. I am asking for your support for the amazing work that these two people are doing on behalf of the Nandamoho watershed here in Guanacaste. So before I get started, I wanted to mention, hopefully we'll see everything start working here in just a moment. July 21st, 2021, I personally was inspired and reminded that we all have an enormous responsibility to try our darndest to do something better, to make the world a better place, both thinking of people that will come after us and in honor of the people who have come before us. So today I want to give a special highlight to the work that Marcia and Alberto are doing for the Asociación Nandamoho. We have hopefully a solid stream connection now, and what we're going to do tonight is talk about what this nonprofit organization is doing to protect water resources in the area. We're going to discuss some very interesting, sort of cultural background and history here in Guanacaste. And throughout, as I mentioned, I'm going to be asking you for your support because these people are accomplishing amazing things for the planet, for trees, for our ecosystem. They deserve our support, and it's the least we can do to support them. Muchísimas gracias por venir para estar conmigo hoy, Alberto y Marcia. Es un gran placer.
Muchas gracias, Matt.
Con mucho gusto esta invitación, muy felices de estar aquí esta noche.
Sí. We will be talking in English. I'm going to be switching back and forth. Alberto is primarily a Spanish speaker, and he's a huge part of this project as well. Marcia is English and Spanish. She is the executive director of Asociación para la Protección de la Cuenca del Río Nandamoho. Her husband, Alberto, is instrumental in helping her. If you're just logging on, the organization that we're talking about is the Guanacaste Water Center, an organization that's now the metamorphosis of restoring our watershed. You can visit guanacastewatercenter.org to learn more about this nonprofit organization. And tonight, again, we're going to be going over what we do, how they help the area's water resources, and the amazing things that they're accomplishing. Entonces, vamos a empezar con ustedes. If you could give me a brief overview, Marcia, what's the big threat to Guanacaste? Why does an Asociación Nandamoho exist? Or why is any of this work necessary?
Well, thanks for watching us, and thanks for inviting us to be here. I think the lack of knowledge is the big thing that is related with all these consequences in the land. So, we have to fight against the ignorance and in all aspects. For example, people don't know that we are in the tropical dry forests and which characteristics they have. If they are with a dry season and rainy season, how much it belongs. And for example, people that for 30 years have seen fires running around the mountains, they think is normal, but that is not normal.
Yep.
And when it rains again, everything turns green or nothing happens, but not. We have a big degradation of the ecosystem, of the biodiversity, of the species, the new saplings that were going and get devastated, they die and they don't continue
Yeah.
a long time.
So one of the amazing things that's happening here in Costa Rica, and that a lot of people don't realize, is that in Guanacaste, this cattle ranching western province of the country, a lot of people think that using fire to clear land is absolutely normal. And one of the biggest, most shocking things for people who move down here is to see, they come, ellos creen que ven Costa Rica y todo pura vida. They imagine that Costa Rica is this environmentally very sound country where people are 100% on board with protecting their ecosystem. And in Guanacaste, during the dry season, you see a huge number of forest fires in our hills that are doing huge amounts of damage. And if you talk to a lot of cattle ranchers or people from an old generation here, those forest fires really aren't anything abnormal, as Marcia was saying. This is a complete cultural practice from decades and decades ago, when I think everybody had enormous amounts of land. The only way to clear it was through fire. And that was the easiest practice, and that's how it sort of continues to be an issue here in Guanacaste. ¿Qué piensa usted sobre la práctica?
Yo pienso que hay que decir varias cosas diferentes. Ante todo, que la práctica siempre se usó, pero hace unos años se usaba diferentemente. Adentro de la familia eran muchas personas que trabajaban en los potreros y que trabajaban con el ganado. Entonces había más gente para usar estos tipos de prácticas y el fuego tenía menos oportunidad de escaparse. Mientras ahora casi todos tienen un trabajo diferente y en el mismo tiempo son ganaderos. No sé solo a esto. Y entonces ahí es donde falta el personal para poder contener esos fuegos que escapan.
Alberto was saying that another reason he thinks that fires have become a big problem in this area is very much that there used to be larger numbers of people who were out working in the fields as cattle ranching families. You would see that there were more people controlling fires, and so this kind of land use practice didn't get out of control. Everybody was more vigilant over the actual farm, and today there are fewer people dedicated to it. Creo que es muy ciertísimo, casi que no hay mucha gente que está cuidando la finca. And you can see it very much that the farms today have fewer hands working out there.
Usando este tipo de zacate que se importó de África, el Haragwa, eso es un zacate particular, resiste muchísimo a la sequía y de un punto a otro, cuando todavía no está lloviendo, tú le metes fuego y después de una semana, 15 días, ello rebrota verde. Y entonces esto también tiene una práctica que es tan normalizada que también la ley lo admites y hay permisos para hacer este tipo de quemas, permisos que no la mayoría de las personas tienen cuando lo hacen.
Another factor that's responsible, Alberto is mentioning, is the use of Haragwa grass, which is an African invasive species that was brought into pastures here. That species of grass loves fire. You can burn the pasture back, and several weeks later, with only a little bit of rainfall or whatever, that Haragwa immediately sprouts again, and it was a good grass for cattle ranchers 30 years ago. It had more protein and was very productive. So they started using more fire because it accompanied that grass well, and today it's created drastic problems in the landscape.
Mhm.
When we visit farms in this watershed, in this area, you see that there's just no nutrition left in the soil. Marcia is a forestry engineer. Tell us about the sorts of signs of environmental degradation that you see when you're visiting the landscape and you're looking around our area.
Well, we have this very intense of periods of rain that really erode the soil, and with the practices, it gets worse. For example, when they have been using the land for rice, later for other culture, and again and over, they degrade a lot the nutrients source for the other plants. And
Yeah.
additionally, when they cut and burn the soil get died. Like they don't have enough fungi, bacteria, and the food web of the soil. So there are a lot of things, as I was saying, of ignorance in all of these things.
Yep.
So people need to learn a lot. For example, when they would like to have a garden, an edible garden, they think it's just to put plants in the soil. But we need to produce the soil and to make it grow first
Yeah.
to have a lot of organic matter and etc.
Yep.
And this is, for example, something very small, but we can reflect that in big areas.
Yep.
So the same problem, the same necessities.
And let's talk about the problem. Essentially, this entire province, Guanacaste, saw severe soil degradation that resulted largely from cattle ranching, monoculture, production of melons, all different kinds of agricultural practices that over time killed the soil, as Marcia mentioned, and really destroyed its capacity to absorb water. And you saw that this western peninsula of Costa Rica, the Nicoya Peninsula, first of all, it was deforested in the 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Yeah.
Huge amounts of the primary tropical dry forest were cut down. And at the same time, you saw cattle pastures and other kinds of agriculture come in. So where you used to have this amazing forest absorbing water every year, you eventually had something that didn't absorb any kind of water. Our province, the area dried out, and you started seeing that this area now has much more extreme events of drought and flooding. It's the same thing that's happened in every civilization, I think, in the history of humanity. You degrade your soils, and today in Guanacaste, or rather, let's look at 6 years ago in 2014 and 15, we had a mega drought. The rains didn't come that year. There was a lot less rainfall in the entire province, and a lot of coastal communities ran out of water because there wasn't enough recharge happening in their wells.
Mm-hmm.
The water resources were shown to be very fragile here, and among many reasons, restoring our watershed, Asociación Nandamojo gained a new life as focusing on restoring landscapes so that Guanacaste and its communities have enough water to get through that dry season, to get through droughts, and to actually sustainably have water for future generations. So if you're just joining us, what we're doing is talking about the work of the Guanacaste Water Center, which you can learn more about at www.guanacastewatercenter.org. This is a nonprofit organization dedicated to protecting water resources here, and it's one of the most impactful small NGOs you're ever going to hear about. So we have this degraded landscape here in Guanacaste. What is the biggest threat to the landscape recuperating, or what really doesn't allow us to get back to a place where Guanacaste has abundant water and enough for everybody?
¿Qué piensas? ¿Cuál es
¿Cuál es la
mayor
amenaza
reto?
más fuerte en contra del recurso hídrico acá en Guanacaste?
La amenaza
These
más...
are improv questions that I'm springing on them.
Es que son varias amenazas, no es una sola, todas las cosas van como de la mano, ¿verdad? Y entonces la falta de agua va a dar otro tipo de problemas, no sobre todo, no tantos en los cultivos, porque son muy pocas las cosas que se cultivan en este lado, pero para tener seguridad hídrica para el futuro. Y creo que para detener esto, sí, es importante mover mucho las manos y sembrar y recuperar las cosas degeneradas, pero lo que hay que hacer es tratar de cambiar la forma de mentalidad. Entonces no es un solo trabajo manual que hay que hacer, es otro tipo. Hay que meter semillas en almácigo, hacer planta y semilla dentro de la mente de las personas jóvenes.
So hopefully everybody understood that fully. It was very profound. And Alberto was talking about, we're not just talking about coming up with a plant that will solve every problem here in Guanacaste and make the environment recuperated. He was talking about what's really necessary is a change in the mentality, and something that's central to your work, being very much changing the mentality and planting seeds in the minds of people. One of the things that I've seen them do that's amazing, and one of the reasons that I want to throw my absolute weight behind their work every single year, is that they don't try to be popular with people. They're not just trying to really be flashy and impress anybody. What you've done and the way that they work is very much trying to give people opportunities to join in this mission. And they're very focused on respecting other people and not necessarily treating it like any kind of unequal footing. The work that they do is trying to bring people along by slowly giving great ideas. Let's talk about where you are going to be giving great ideas. We are trying, the reason I'm talking about the Guanacaste Water Center tonight is that we have an actual facility, a beautiful little place that's located just outside of Playa Junquillal. It's in the heart of our watershed, and it's a place that we're trying to create an absolute motor, a driver of conservation and good things in our watershed. Danielle, if you would do me the favor of starting the video of us walking around what is the Guanacaste Water Center. We've received a donation of a half acre of land. This facility already has our reforestation nursery. There is a place for an eating facility and a learning area. We actually have a couple learning areas. Danielle, I think you have the wrong clip. Let me get it going here. I'm gonna do this one, and my apologies, folks, for it's that one. However, we can get this clip playing.
Well, we call the place like a center for education, experimentation, and models. So the idea is that people come and they have ideas, they go back home, and they have these ideas in mind that they can reproduce.
Yep.
Basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's see, this thing, if it would just start playing here, is the only problem. Let's see.
Muchas cosas de una vez.
Here we are again, pardon the technical difficulties. And let's see.
El agua, pero cuánto el fuego, los suelos.
Reciclaje, la erosión, la producción de miel, la producción de abonos, las huertas, el compost.
Yeah, and this is showing currently that we're getting a little air on the video I hoped to play. So what I'm actually going to do now is share my entire screen with this video. That's the workaround I had actually figured out. And let's go ahead and watch the video here. So we are walking into the Guanacaste Water Center. It's located just a mile outside of town here. Like I said, we have a donation for a half acre of land. And the idea is, like Marcia mentioned, a center for education, modeling, and collaboration. We want to bring people to the Guanacaste Water Center to learn about simple concepts of environmental stewardship, really starting with extremely young individuals. Marcia and Alberto bring hundreds of elementary school kids to this center every year. We've got generous donations so far, some from a company called Faithbox, others from private individuals. Here we're walking around the center itself and headed to the bathrooms. Obviously very important, but you can see sort of the feel of what we have. We're walking towards a germination center where every year Marcia and Alberto are working to produce something like 4,000 to 5,000 native species saplings. Here's the areas you can see now where they grow these saplings. They'll provide them free of charge to people in our watershed. Or, one of the things that they're doing is providing saplings to larger projects where they'll actually be able to sell the trees. But you can see here the beds of thousands of saplings that they have ready for reforestation projects. This was a professionally produced video using absolutely the highest technology. Here we have native fruit species. Creo que son los, ¿cuáles serán estos?
Guapinoles.
Yeah, this is guapinol, which was, used to be a super popular hardwood species.
It's super beautiful. It's a superfood. It's evergreen. Important for beetles.
Yeah, absolutely. So they've got.
Sí, todo experimental, porque también el techo del vivero es un techo verde, lo cortamos de invierno cuando falta luz y lo dejamos crecer de verano para que haga sombra a las mismas plantas.
That tree also gives great shade for nursery plants. All of the species that they have there are multi-use, and really they aim to have things that people want to plant. This is one of the 7 or 8 educational displays that we have at the water center. You can see there's a lagoon behind the soda here. I took this video entirely surprising Marcia and Alberto. They just happened to be at work. This is a space that was donated to us. Nos ayudó con este espacio los de Faithbox también.
En parte.
Yeah.
Sí, un poco.
So we've got contributions that helped us build this eating and meeting and education space that you're looking at here.
Todas las cosas de la cocina que compramos nuevos, la estructura ya estaba, se lo hicimos en otro proyecto, pero muchas cosas de la cocina y muchas cosas que hicimos.
Por ejemplo, hicimos ese puente para no dañar las raíces del árbol.
We have a fully functional kitchen at that building, an eating facility that's known as a soda in Costa Rica. This is coming back through the learning area there, where you'll see we're going to have watershed models available for people to mess around with. And
este jardín que estás viendo lo construyeron todos los chicos de la comunidad cuando vinieron a aportar sus horas cuando pasó el de COVID, que pudimos darle las canastas de víveres.
Yeah.
Cada uno trajo planta de su casa y pudieron hacer esta parte del jardín.
Oh, lindo. So in that part of the garden that we were just looking at, for example, there were high school students that had been doing their volunteer hours at the Guanacaste Water Center. They brought those plants from their homes and added that ornamental garden there.
Also, last year we were working with people from the community of Los Pancos.
Uh-huh.
We were working fundraising for buying basically food for the people,
Yep.
and they came to make service hours in nurseries. So they brought all
Yep.
these plants from their home, and also it was really nice because it was like mental health.
Yeah.
It was really important to get out of the house in a nice place.
Here's the inside of our kitchen. We'll wrap up this video tour of the Guanacaste Water Center here in just, I think, a minute or so. One of the things, over the pandemic, they had a very strong community food distribution program. The Watershed Organization and the Guanacaste Water Center helped distributing baskets, essentially giving, they worked with people who got community service hours and were able to get those food baskets. Because here's my dramatic fade out of the video tour. It's becoming a community center, and really the mission, our vision, and long-term goal is that this will be an engine, as I mentioned, to drive environmental restoration. They have endless workshops with kids about protecting the environment. They're focused on promoting the idea of values, respect, stewardship, really starting at the basics and trying to get people here in Guanacaste very much on board with the idea that protecting your landscape is protecting your water. Tell us a little bit about day to day, some of the things, algunos trabajos que hacen día a día allá en el centro. Si estamos en un día típico, ¿qué hacen?
Es una cosa bastante particular, también un poco loca. Estos sacos que se vieron, ¿no? cuando pasaste por el último video, que había unos sacos, estos sacos están llenos de semillas de Guanacaste. Por ejemplo, ahorita estamos tratando de hacer un proyecto común de encontrar comida que se pueda comer fresca o que se pueda comer en harina de los mismos árboles que están, en manera que si el cultivo se va o el cultivo no se va. Entonces, por ejemplo, este día que recogimos todas estas semillas, y hay días que la metemos a hervir en agua para hacer germinados frescos para comer en ensalada, y se lo estamos mostrando a mucha gente, y estamos tratando de experimentar para hacer una harina para cocinar un pan, por ejemplo. Hay días que uno hace esto.
We're lucky his Spanish is actually extremely clear and slow compared to some people. He was talking about the fact, I asked him what day-to-day things that they're doing at the Guanacaste Water Center, and it can be completely all over the map. He was mentioning one day that they were collecting seeds. Some of the seeds they were going to use to try and show people that you could use this particular tree's seeds to make flour in a pinch or a drink. And some of the other seeds they were using the next day to germinate that tree's saplings. I personally know, those are extreme cases, but the different ways that they're involving people is actually incredible. And for example, when they were working with people on their community service hours, a lot of the time that they spent was experimenting with garden beds. You were doing microorganisms and using those to improve soil fertility. And through all of this, a lot of people learned incredible skills that not necessarily they would have tried to learn otherwise, but that will, in the long term, increase their talents and all the kinds of things that they can do at home. So one of the things that I'm doing, Marcia and Alberto do all of this incredible work every year on a shoestring budget of something like $20,000 to $30,000. And that's hundreds of elementary school kids that come through the center, thousands of saplings that they create to give to reforestation projects. It's countless hours with landowners, all kinds of small property owners in the area, talking to them about different ideas to improve their landscape. Alberto spends immense hours putting out forest fires and supporting one of the community fire brigades here in the watershed. So I am asking everybody who watches my channel to support these people financially. We will have details on how you can donate, both through a U.S. tax-deductible donation or directly here in Costa Rica to support their work. I want to raise $10,000 for them with no time limit, except that I'd love to do it as soon as possible. The things that they accomplish on a year-to-year basis are enough that Latitude 10 Realty will absolutely be kicking in on our end. I've called about every real estate agent that I can think of, and I've tried to guilt them into donating as well. If you're watching out there and you have any love for the planet or just hardworking people or for an education or for good things happening, look up how to donate and make a contribution to what Marcia and Alberto are doing. I personally am willing to guarantee that what we're getting per dollar donated to their efforts is far beyond what a lot of nonprofit organizations can offer. Just to go on and talk a little bit about, this Guanacaste Water Center, our plan is not to be begging for donations every year, though I will be doing it every year on this channel and look forward to it getting even crazier. But we have a financial sustainability idea and the goal of the Guanacaste Water Center generating income. How can it sustain itself, or how can it generate its own financial resources? What are some of the things that you guys are doing so that we're not just donating?
Well, we have a lot of ideas, of course, but we would like to have a honey processing facility. So this is one of the projects that is coming. Also, we would like to have in the center a lot of tours, because it's really interesting and people love to come and maybe look to all these educational stations. There is a lot to talk and a lot to share in different perspectives if you live in this country or in other country. And we would like to have a lot of workshops for a lot of topics, because we think this is a holistic center, so arts, spiritual, and also environmental is important. So we would like to have an agenda for all these activities. At the same time, we receive volunteers. We have a kitchen and all the facilities for giving them food and everything. So we would like to have some cabins and receive volunteers and interns that want to have this experience.
Yeah.
There is a lot of possibilities. Also, we're looking for landscaping projects. We did 2, and maybe we're gonna make another one this year. We are providing plants for many people, and our job is totally different, because we reproduce a lot of endangered species or rare or native species that nobody reproduces. So this year, for example, it was incredible how people came for looking plants, like 500 plants, 200, etc.
Yeah.
And so we would like to have this and other kind of experiments, like pollinator-friendly gardens, and native species in gardens that don't need a lot of water. So water consumption is low. And there is a lot of different projects that we want to make.
Yeah, absolutely. Generally speaking, the center is located on a stretch of highway that goes out to a major tourism area. This is a place that doesn't necessarily have ecotourism in it. And between providing food and providing the opportunity for people to connect to a local organization and what's going on, the idea is very much that visitors can stop by, contribute, but also buy local products, buy honey from our bottling facility. We've been running our Bees for Trees program, which is micro lending and honey production tied together for 5 or 6 years now. And really the idea is that there are different sources of income providing financial sustainability to the project as well. I was gonna say, we started out with just a fan mode on because the door was open. It was clearly time to switch to AC
Yeah.
a couple out like 45 minutes ago because I'm starting to glow a little bit.
Yeah, there are a lot of ideas, like for example, to make, how do you say, like un lugar donde venden la comida por granel, como stock shop.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And
For example, a place where the people can give the local people can give their products and they are sale and a good price and etc. I'm like talking about fair market place.
absolutely.
And also to open the cafeteria. So there are a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
But they need a lot of job, a lot of work.
But in the meantime, you've been hosting student groups. You've been doing every single community service project and doing all kinds of things to earn bits and pieces of money. That for a nonprofit, I always find that admirable because they don't have an enormous donor role that is, giving them absurd quantities of money. This is very much a grassroots effort that is spending money efficiently and achieving things in the right way. I want to go out to some comments here. I do see that Anne Marie was joining us, so thanks very much, sweetheart. Absolutely, Lee, I agree. These are good people caring for the planet. There was an interesting question from Pigs. Yes, you are right. Dry rainforests are extremely unique. And in fact, the percentage of dry tropical rainforests that are remaining today, the forests like we have in the absolute hills of our watershed, is a smaller percentage than tropical rainforest. So you could say dry tropical forest is more threatened than rainforest itself.
I would add that the tropical dry forest used to be from Mexico until Venezuela and Colombia. And now just the remain of dry forest is in Costa Rica.
Yep.
And if you want to research a little bit, you can read about Daniel Jansen doing a great job with he
recently got some other huge prize.
Exactly. It's like, I don't know how to say that.
Daniel Jansen, Janzen, is the authority on dry tropical forest. And this ecosystem is very much a special thing because we have that dry season that I've talked about on my channel a ton from January through April, and that very stark contrast with the rainy season from May through November. I love to see that Greg, our environmental geologist, is joining us. Greg, we will have details as to how you can make a donation to the Nandamoho organization in the description of this video. As I've mentioned before, we have a U.S. fiduciary agent, so if you want a tax donation deduction up there, that's absolutely possible through an organization called Amigos of Costa Rica. And if you have a bank account here in Costa Rica, so do we, the Asociación Nandamoho, can just receive a direct deposit as well. And to remind you all, I am directly asking everybody for your support of Asociación Nandamoho, which is an organization. They're creating the Guanacaste Water Center. We'll put a link to that organization or the center itself, of course, in the description of the video.
It's like we have many programs, and one program is education, other program is restoration of the landscape, other program is support the fire brigade, other is the Guanacaste Water Center,
Control the erosion.
other is bees for trees honey.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Danielle, if you would just roll one of the tapes with clips of what they're doing, we'll let that go on while we sort of discuss things. I'll also invite anybody to make a question. If you'd like to submit one, put it in the comments here. Marcia, again, is a forestry engineer. Alberto is the chief firefighter of Western Costa Rica. He's received a prize directly from Costa Rica's president while the president was still popular. So it means a lot that he got that. So anyhow, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You guys, talk a little bit more about the Guanacaste Water Center and, what things do you do to change the world and save us all from the dangers of, impending doom?
Well, we talk a lot with people, try to make conscious about a lot of topics, try that people stop burning plastics, burning their falling leaves, help people to know more about organic agriculture, microorganisms, and ways of be more ecological friendly. Also, we reproduce all these plants every year. That we don't make it magically. We go to the field. We monitor the species and the trees, and we pick the seeds in the perfect moment. Then we process them. We make the seedlings. That this is something that just Alberto and me does because it's very delicate and it's a lot of knowledge. So sometimes people can damage when they help us damage the seeds. So it's something that just Alberto and me do. Then we put in the beds. We make them sprout, and when they have maybe a month, we change them to the plastic bags with the help of volunteers. Yeah. Sometimes we don't have volunteers, and we do it.
Yeah,
muchas.
And sometimes also we get help of people in the community that they like or they have the talent. So we teach other people how to make this work. And we work like trying to pass all this knowledge.
Yeah.
And also, we organize a lot of things in the fire brigade. So it's another thing that is really important to do.
Yeah. Alberto, the two of them have been instrumental in supporting Bridena, a fire brigade in one of the communities here in the watershed. This past year, 2021, was one of the first years many of us remember in over a decade that there weren't out of control forest fires. That was because they attacked dozens of different forest fires at their source. This was all with a fire brigade that grew from 6 or 7 people at the initial training now to 30 or 40 people. Every year, they're getting more volunteers to participate in that. They're throwing their absolute passionate energy behind creating saplings for people to use in reforestation projects and really trying to reach people. I've never seen anybody approach with so much respect others, and I think that's one of the most critical things, in that they don't act at all like there's a different level between what they're trying to do and the interaction, the people that they're working with. They've always approached landowners, children, teenagers, viejitas, little old ladies, everybody with the same level of respect.
Yes.
And at times, it's not you being bubbly and trying just to win their affection, but you're being very direct. And whether it's conveying knowledge about organic gardening, or they're trying to talk about the importance of not burning farms or planting contour lines, they're doing amazing work. They're morphing into this beautiful center called the Guanacaste Water Center. We'll have information about how you can support Marcia and Alberto and a growing network of people in our area who are actually taking an interest in protecting their water resources. I wanted to take a quick moment and recognize that Blue Water Properties and Palma Azul here in Junquillal immediately stepped up and offered donations while I was talking to them on the phone. Dan Williams of Coldwell Banker Tamarindo also committed immediately on the phone. Larry Graziano, Larry's Playa Negra Realty, is currently a board member and has been supportive of Asociación Nandamojo. We want to thank Faithbox for their support of the Guanacaste Water Center. We've gotten numerous private donations over the years that have made all of this work possible. I look forward to hearing how much you all want to contribute to this organization. Like I said, there's no deadline. They're going to continue doing amazing things this year, next year, and the next 10 years. Lo siento muchísimo otra vez que hablamos tantísimo en inglés.
No, lo siento yo no poder entender, no entiendo lo que estás diciendo, entonces no me aburro y son cosas que me interesan mucho, pero no poderme comunicar directamente.
Sí. I wanted to apologize one more time because Alberto has joined for several videos now and does not necessarily get to contribute as much as he'd love to. Again, Guanacaste, Costa Rica is a beautiful place, but its water resources are threatened. This is an organization that's taking positive action to protect water resources by giving people the simple skills, knowledge, and tools that they need to actually protect water. They're doing it in an amazing way. I have a conflict of interest because I live in their watershed and their success will mean better water for me in the long run. I'm president of the board, but more than anything, I 100% respect totalmente lo que están haciendo porque están trabajando en lo más duro que existe. They're doing the hardest work that's out there. They deserve our support. If you haven't already donated, contact me about how you can do so at matt@lat10realty.com. Thank you to everybody for joining us. I look forward to talking to you more about what's happening with the Guanacaste Water Center. Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.